a huge ultimate out of triple. So much damage across, and it looks like the Direwolves are absolutely rinsing the king.
Welcome back to the OPL, and we're seeing now the big upset from Tectonic and their victory faces at the end of Game 2 there. I mean, this is why you watch sports. You know, as big as an upset as this is for Order, this is a really lovely moment for Tectonic, seeing this sort of celebration, this sort of like happiness course through them. This is what makes sports exciting to watch.
Yeah, no, like no one would have predicted this. Like from Tectonic going from last year, I mean last split, sorry, coming into this split, just like taking out arguably probably one of the strongest contenders, if not the strongest, just so convincingly.
I mean,
yeah,
22
amazing.
series losses in a row, and now to take it out now, it's pretty exciting. You still can't believe it. You've been shaking the entire time.
I've been shaking for the last 5 minutes. Like, I don't know, like, this gets me real rolled up. I just want to get in there and play League of Legends right now.
And then, how does this? I think you face off against them week 4.
Week 4,
yeah. I mean, how does this now put you in a position? What are you thinking about going into that game?
Like, yeah, I've already got a bit of rivalry with Papyrus, so no, this is like, this gets me real pumped up.
Yeah.
Even going into the next game, like we got Avant versus Dire, was like, absolutely, there could be another upset here. Like, who knows? Might just be a wonderful day.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing that. But of course, we do need to continue with tonight's games. We're also running the hashtag RRSign competition. You can win yourself 2 tickets to the Rift Rivals event here in Sydney in July. We are giving those away. All you need to do is make a sign that you would be proud to hold up at the Rift Rivals event. We've seen a lovely example from you over the course of the evening.
It's hard to beat that one.
It is going to be hard to beat that one. I don't know if legally I can give you the ticket, but maybe I will. Maybe you could share it with someone. Would you like to just turn up with a random? Like, it's 2 tickets we're giving away. Could I give you one and then just, like, I know you're playing, but, like, would you like to, like, come along and sit in the audience when you're not actually
Yeah,
playing?
after my game, sure.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the fans from Twitter. Just
that'd be awesome.
in there.
I think that's a great selling point. That would be an awesome. You go as a date, and then you know maybe
go on a
something could
little cute
happen. Who
date.
knows? Of course, we've now got coming up the next games in tonight's series, Avant versus Direwolves. Guys, are we excited for this one?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm more excited to see how Swiper's girlfriend responds.
He just advertised a date with DOS. Maybe not so happy about that one.
Maybe not, but I am pretty excited about it.
It could be a platonic date where just at the end a friendship is what is born. You know, it doesn't always need to be dirty.
Sorry.
Okay, that's a no. Okay, that's a no. I feel like now I'm speaking on behalf of you and your relationship. I'm just going to clamp down on that. I'll come along.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's say Nick and Nick's kid can come along, and Nick's dog can come along, and yeah, we'll see exactly what happens. However, we have got another best of 3 coming your way. It is going to be Avant Gaming taking on the Direwolves. And whilst on paper this might once again look very one-sided, we just saw the team that lost to Avant beat the team that took Direwolves very closely last week. So if my rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock works out,
oh my god,
then
no.
potentially Avant are our favourites going into this game.
Yeah, this is super weird. I'd love to see another upset. Maybe my tips aren't going to like it very much because it's definitely not what I tip. I'm a very safe tipper, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I normally have thrown a spanner in the works.
I normally have a rule whenever Order play, by the way, which is I always tip against them. And the reason I do that is because if they win, then I'm happy because obviously I'm the general manager. Then if they lose, I'm like, well, at least my tips are right.
You get a consolation.
I broke
right?
that rule today.
Oh.
God damn it. I should have known that Civil was playing. However, let's get into the lineup. It's going to be Avant Gaming starting on your blue side. Pabu, of course, is their top laner. Frayless is their jungler, Frey in the mid lane, Darkside and Jake are their AD carry and support, and of course Charlie Wraith is their coach. And this is an organization that has perennially been, not even bridesmaids, Ejim, 5th place finishers.
Yeah.
And Jake was so funny last week on the couch. He actually said he doesn't care if he comes 6th anymore. He just
not
5th.
Like it's that much?
Like that is how much he hates finishing 5th. And potentially this is a split now with an import, now with a couple of roster changes that can happen.
And you want to talk about the import, right? Because Darkside came in relatively unknown in terms of OPL fans and OPL players, knowing who he is coming over from Turkey. But he played incredibly well up against Tectonic. Mind you, I was coming to today being like, has he really been tested against a substitute AD carry and trans brand new to the lineup? But all of a sudden they take down Order. But he played incredibly well in both games, in all 3 games, honestly, from AV last split. Pairing up with Jake on your screen now, they look pretty solid.
Yeah, they certainly did. And I think that the big thing here is that Jake is finally playing with an AD carry, that they seem to be on a similar wavelength. In the games where they were farming up, Jake was completely happy to play that supportive position. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think that this Avant lineup will need some time to bring it together because they do play slow League of Legends. However, this is an area where potentially we're going to see a top-side focused team because their bottom lane is relatively passive.
And that's the thing. I feel like AV try to play a fairly standard style of League of Legends. And we saw Order last week not really take it, other than that one Darius game, to BioPanther in the top lane. Obviously, the newest member, the only change for the Direwolves. And I think AV is the kind of team, Pabu, blue hair on your screen right now. I feel like he's the kind of guy that will want to play a carry versus this brand new player. Because Pabu, a year ago, he was that guy. He was the new guy coming into the OPL, young kid, big chip on his shoulders, like, I'm playing Renekton, I want to pop off. And unfortunately, it wasn't so successful back then. Wants to put BioPanther in that place.
Absolutely. And of course, on the flip side, we do have the Direwolves roster as we bring it up into your screen. It is going to be BioPanther in the top lane, Shernfire, their superstar jungler, Triple, probably the most underrated player in the league. And I say that, and people think he's good. I just think he's great. King and Cupcake are their AD carry and support. Of course, Sharp is the man that stands behind them, pacing back and forward, looking very pensive, very thoughtful. And I think that Direwolves will probably play standard today. And that is a very strange thing to say.
Yes, I really want them to play standard. We just saw Order try 2 weird compositions unsuccessfully. I want to see Direwolves go back to basics. They played standard last week. Just stick to it. They have a very strong lineup just straight up across the board. They put BioPanther on tank top lane, and you talk about Triple, arguably one of the best mid laners in the region, and he's impressive in a very unimpressive way. He doesn't make flashy plays. He doesn't play Zed all the time. His Malzahar is impressive. The silences he lands clutch onto something like a Skarner who's going for a pick, they just hit 9 out of 10 times, and he's just so reliable.
By the way, can we just remove Malzahar from the game? Like, I say this in the most lovable... Like, I like Triple. Order plays Malzahar as well, guys. It's not because it beat us. It's just that AoE silences are just an archetype. Like, no, but at least that's like you... I feel like AoE silences should be removed from the game.
Okay.
Maybe even Soraka E, actually. Now that I think about it, I just hate silence as a mechanic. Not being able to press buttons, to me, is the most frustrating thing in League of Legends. And I feel like at least Soraka's you can see, whereas Malzahar sometimes...
It appears.
It appears and then disappears, and you don't even know whether it hit you until you're dead.
That's pretty unlucky. Maybe AD carries should just come back and actually play AD carries, because if they're silenced, they just hit you with an auto attack, and it actually does damage.
Start firing. We do have a little bit of a delay getting into the game, guys, so we're just going to hang out. We're just going to chill here. I do want to talk a little bit more about BioPanther, because I know that a lot of people were really hyped about this guy coming in. Like, we saw a big thing saying in the Challenger Series, he was doing things like solo killing ZZZ. Of course, people would know him from his time on Regicide and before that on Avant Gaming. Big carry player as well.
Yep.
Last week, I'm going to be brutally honest, like, he didn't impress me that much. I think that he played a fairly solid Ornn, but I think that people were hyping this guy up and he was falling down in CS. And I think that the one thing about Direwolves that made them very strong is they didn't lose a lane. Every single time Shern played, he played with 3 winning lanes. And I'm interested to see whether this starts to hurt Direwolves in the long run.
And that's what I said coming into the split, right? When you look at last split Direwolves, if they play towards bot side, if they put their resources into mid lane, Chippies is just playing Gangplank, and he's even, if not ahead in gold on the top side of the map. Now, all of a sudden, brand new player, BioPanther, a lot of people saying that, and rightfully so, that he's a strict short-term downgrade. He's a lot less experienced than Chippy's MVP of last split, so it's a big test for him, and we've seen him in the tank versus tank. You say not too impressive. Did fine overall for his first game. It's hard to judge someone going up against a long-term top laner in Tally, who has been very good, perennially good in the OPL. We haven't seen him in these carry matchups, where Chippy's really shined, right? He was like a Camille, he was a Jax, he pulled out the O-Life, things like that. So it's a very different play style that BioPanther brings, I think. It'll be interesting to see that tested.
Because the thing about Shern, the thing that made him so successful is you couldn't split the map against him, because he would always play to the winning side of the map. Because if you tried to split the map with him, he would just have the ability to walk into your jungle, he would have all these pushing lanes, and then all of a sudden Chippies is collapsing or Triple is collapsing, and your jungler is continually being kicked out. So then if you're a jungler, the only choice you have is try and match and try and fight.
That's a hard way to play.
Yeah, that is a very difficult... That's a high-pressure situation.
That's a volatile way to play.
Because if you lose one team fight in that situation, Shern takes a half of your jungle, goes to the only half of your jungle is up and left available, kills you again, and the game is legitimately over. So I think that my argument about this is that actually, when I look at the game, not from Order's perspective, but from a purely analytical perspective, I think there is now an area of Direwolves' map to attack. Whereas for the last year and a half, no one has been realistically able to say that. people have hinted that they know things about direwolves, but they've never been able to execute upon it.
And that's the thing. It's super interesting. I think AV is the kind of team that is happy to do that. Because AV, I'm going to say the word average in the nicest way possible. Like, they are an average team in the best way. They don't make
People
huge
think average
mistakes.
means bad.
Yeah.
But if you look it up, average does not mean bad.
They're in the middle, and they have come 5th place for a number of years. Obviously, they don't want to change that, but they play standard League of Legends. They try and play the macro game. Their lanes have been solid for the most part, and they don't make huge mistakes. They don't make huge plays. In their victory versus Tectonic last week, they were pretty successful in the standard games. They tried that Braum Graves mid-jungle. Was not successful. They lost that game to Tectonic, but in game 1 and 3, they were just like, look, we're just going to farm it up, play an 80 carry, and that's how we win the game. And they just play that slow, methodical style.
Absolutely. I think the other area of the map that we have to critique is Prayless, because obviously he played for the Direwolves, had a couple of really impressive performances, playing things like the Eve, playing things like Shyvana last split in Surefire's stead. Last week, played fine once again, but also this was a player that I expected to try and burst onto the OPL scene, especially against a jungler like Sybil, who people do like to try and bully.
Yep, because Sybil, night and day, really can have a very good game, can have a very rough game, so it makes a lot of sense. I feel like you have to highlight like how hard it is coming into your first game of OPL. Very different than scrimming, very different than playing at home, things like that. So it's difficult to burst onto the scene. We just saw Gunkrab do it.
Gunkrab seemed to do fine with it.
It's definitely possible.
I would like, if possible, we could make it more difficult to play well in the first game. If we could somehow figure out how to do
Rewind time,
that would be
again.
great. God, yep.
But it is definitely a thing, right? The average player comes in and plays okay. And that's what you expect, and to build from there. AV is a roster. They made multiple changes in the offseason. We were just highlighting Prayless. Darkside played very well in his first couple of games. But they are looking to build. Obviously, I almost said Doublelift. Direwolves are a very tough opponent. Doublelift's probably also pretty tough. Coming into this game.
You played against Doublelift. What did you think about
I played against Doublelift.
Haven't you played
against
against Doublelift?
Yeah, no, I have.
I've heard a couple of stories.
Yeah, I got absolutely demolished.
All right, cool, no worries.
Swiper's also played
funny
against
thing
Doublelift.
is-
Yeah, Swiper's mic is hot, and I don't know if Swiper...
I want to talk, but
No, you're allowed to talk. Swiper, for those that don't know Brandon Holland very well, he has this giggle that he does when he's entertained, which is kind of like...
The one you can hear right now, by the way.
And he really does like to have a good giggle. What are your thoughts on these two teams, Dossie?
like you said, I think Biopanther is probably a downgrade from Chibi's. Let's be realistically here. I think that he's not allowed voice in the team though, and I think that's sort of what Direwolves might have needed to like propel.
Okay.
Like they're not a team that cares about domestic. They're like that. They're a bit egotistical in the way that like they're looking long term. They're looking like worlds. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think, in their eyes, a long-term solution is to get like a quieter top laner and to really just play like strictly around Shern. And I think Chippy's asked for a lot of resources, which is the difference in their teams. And I think that it's a huge risk, but I don't know.
You can't have too many cooks, right?
Yeah.
Like if all of your lanes want to play carry threats, like obviously King is very good at playing things like Ashe and Varus.
Yeah.
But he wants to be playing the Ezreal, wants to be playing the Lucian.
I think King kind of said he wanted to be able to play everything, right?
He did.
The thing that frustrates King, and I know this personally, is when people blind pick Ezreal into him. He wants the freedom to be able to play Vayne. He doesn't want to have to respond with an Ashe every single time, because he's come out publicly and said that he likes to be able to have resources when he deserves them. I want to talk to you about Parbo as well, Swiper, because this is a person I know you have a lot of history with.
It just seems like I have history of every top laner, though, doesn't it?
Maybe you're the problem. What's going on?
Yeah, if there's one consistent in every one of these debacles, then
No, but the thing is like... you're kind of the old man of the top lane. Like
Yep.
You've been around
I'm the
the rock
grumpy
at the
old
top. You've been there for a while.
Yep.
Pretty unmovable, and people have taken a few swings at you, if anything, to try and make their mark on the OPL. So, do you think Parbu is the kind of top laner that will take it to Biopanther?
I think he's going to be given a lot of resources, and I think that he has the ability to carry. I think in a way, him and Paparaz are quite similar. You saw in game 1, Paparaz took over the game pretty much.
We're not
after
talking
that.
about last year. Stick purely to the Avant versus Direwolves analysis.
Yeah, okay. But I do think Parby has the ability to carry a game pretty much if he's given them resources. But at the same time, it can backfire on you quite hard. And if it's the reverse, or if one thing goes wrong with Parby, I don't know if he knows like how to like adapt from that situation.
Yeah, because it's a really hard skill in a solo lane, especially the long solo lane, learning how to play from behind. Because a lot of aggressive top laners don't really do that. Even in solo queue, if they fall down, they still play as if they're ahead. You know
Jungler
exactly what I'm
exist.
talking about at the moment. Jungler does not go there.
Classic like split push player that like it literally the Hashinshin style.
Yeah.
Of just I am ahead. I'm just gonna like ram it down this lane, and either I'm going game 0
you're looking
or
at him right now,
0-10.
Jake Small time. I mean, why do you think he's complaining all about them silences? Because he's a Garen one true. He doesn't want it.
100%. Because do you know the most? This is legitimately the most frustrating thing. Getting ganked by a jungler, you can justify. When a support comes top, you're like, how has this happened? There is a dragon bottom side. There's no fortification on your turret. 80 carries are squishy. Like, how does their support have enough time to come top lane and, like, stuff up my day?
That is why.
Come on, back me up here. That is frustrating.
It is
Completely
the
agree
best
with you,
lane
Jake.
to gank because you
don't
idiot
expect
top
it.
laners do not expect it. Like, you just Moby Boots first by Ali, and every mid lane is like, wait, where's Ali? What's he going on? Like, he's got to come around flank from behind me, but top laners just, you just don't exist in their mind. You come from behind, like, headbutt them into your carry, pops off.
Yeah.
The only easy way to say is that it's not your fault, and then you feel better, and then you move on.
Oh, the classic blame.
Or
game.
the other thing you do is if they burn a summoner spell, you just ping the summoner spell. I know you get upset by this, Bryce. If you got enough time to ping, if you got enough to type summoner spell, you got enough time to time it. Not my job, mate.
Or you ping the enemy turret, bot lane.
Ping
Go
the
hit the
turret,
turret a
ping
little
the
bit.
summoner
Those
spell.
guys are the one, when you're hitting the enemy turret and your top laner dies to a gank, and they're pinging the turret, it's like, yes, thank you. This is the turret I'm currently auto-attacking. I'm aware.
No, it's just a bit of shot calling. It's a little bit of trying to control the team, get people back on the same page. I like to keep the communication
Top
up.
laners only like to shot call with a grey screen. That's when they've got something to add to
It's
the
the
discussion.
easiest time to do it, Bryce.
It is. You got nothing else to do.
Do want to come back to this game in particular. Let's talk about Shern because he is a very contentious figure. I know that. Is it still the case when Shern first came back from Korea? I know that a lot of laners said like the implied pressure that he put out on the map, being able to dodge wards, clear out wards. He's much more of a negative vision person. Like if the map could be completely dark or completely lit up, Shern would want to play on a dark map every single time. Is that implied pressure still there?
Like when he came back, if I take a bad trade top, I'm like, oh, here I am, gonna get dived again, gonna lose my first turret. And I think it's the same bot lane. It's essentially just like he's a monster playing them mind games, and he's just like really sneaky with it.
He's really versatile, and you started pointing this out last bit, and he was the first jungler in the OPL to start hitting Scryer plants backwards into his own jungler. That just speaks to the negative vision game. Like he'd rather just defend his own camps and then have the ability to play aggressive than play a super risky style. Because we have seen Shernfire have bad games, go 0-9 against Order last split on Jarvan, but those are few and far between. And more often than not, he does apply pressure with it. And it's much easier to jungle with winning lanes. But that is just a kind of a testament to Direwolves, and they've been so dominant for so long. I do want to touch on, you said like they are egotistical because they focus on the international. There's a bit like, if you win
only
3
go
splits
there,
in a row, then...
Yeah, I mean, we were there once, Bryce, and look what happened to us.
If you go back 5 years ago, you two old men were there as well.
But I think at a certain point it's fair to absolutely answer the question, like where do you think you want to be, or like what are you aiming for? International is where they look.
I say this every single split. When everyone brings me new rosters and they're like, who are you excited about? Who is the first on the power rankings? Until someone beats this team, I don't care how many players they change. Until someone beats the organization, they have to be considered the best. Even if they change biopen, like obviously if they just rinse everyone out, but as long as the core is still there, as long as Sharp is still manning, because they've got the most, in my opinion, they've got the most solid drafts. They play the game in the most methodical way. You pointed out that when Direwolves have a lead, it feels like it's only a matter of time before they close out the game. And when they're in a deficit, it feels like there's only a matter of time until they claw it back and get a 50-50.
That is one of my favorite things about the Direwolves. I traditionally spoke about this with their bot lane, King of Destiny. Very frustrated to play against them because they're incredibly good at gracefully losing. And now I think Direwolves are the team that if you put them in a classroom, it's like a school scenario, like they don't finish a subject, do the test and move on. They don't move on until everyone is at 100. They learn things together, and that's why they are so incredibly dominant and so incredibly reliable across the board.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with Sharp because Sharp has always been a good player, if not a great player at certain points in his career. Understands the fundamentals of the game very well, and they all play fundamental League of Legends incredibly well. Their CS numbers are very high. I wanted to talk to you about, we talk about winning lanes all the time and the fact that that allows Shernfire to do something. I also think that Shernfire allows his lanes to win. Because when you push, I know a lot of pro players like, when I push, I'm winning. But then for some reason, when you play against Shern, especially when he used to play things like Zac and Elise, it was like, when I push, I die. So the one way I know how to win the lane consistently is now removed from how I have to win the lane. And then if you get pushed in, he dives you. So I think that the winning lanes is certainly an argument, but I think he also allows his lanes to win as hard as they do.
Like, absolutely, it's a two-way street. Like, lanes that get priority, they push in with Shern, he groups up, they have very good communication, get vision in the jungle. All of a sudden, that's step one. Now Shern can track the jungler, so he can push out the jungler so the lanes can play aggressive. It's a two-way street, and that's how Direwolves kind of claw their way back into games. That's how they get so far ahead. They are very punishing. I want to touch on something you talked about. Like, when they are behind, like, every lead you get against the Direwolves feels like, or when you're watching it, like you're struggling for that 1,000 gold. But they just make it look so easy because they play pretty safe.
Yep, game 5, 8k gold lead. Look what happened.
Bummer.
We lost 2 team fights and the game's over.
Bit unlucky.
I think I think that at the same time they are not unbeatable. And I think that Avant need to attack the areas of the map that you know that is going to happen. Sherm will make over-aggressive plays. He will try and mechanically outplay you because that's the kind of player he is, as we do jump into Champion Select. So I think that if you pick something that is good early but also scales, you will get opportunities to still go at this Direwolves lineup. And I really hope that it is the top side of the map they do decide to attack.
Because you absolutely do get opportunities. If you flub too many, Direwolves will claw back the game and they will win. But if you get ahead early, you can snowball that mid-game. 20 minutes, Baron buff is available. You can force things around. See if AV can do that on the top side of the map, as you mentioned.
All right, so
heading into this one.
Into Champion Select for game number 1. Avant Gaming trying to continue the upsets on this OPL Week 2. They ban away Lulu, Yasuo, Braum. It will be Talia, Graves, as well as the Rakan banned away by the Direwolves.
Aurelia.
Immediately locked in.
Got to be the first pick. 3 roles can be played, top, mid, and that bottom lane. Very safe pick away from the Direwolves. Karma. That's an answer.
Locked in. And what the heck?
Okay, we talked about standard League of Legends.
Sejuani hasn't been seen in a long time, though.
She has been seen support.
Oh, really?
Yes. She's been getting some play, has a ton of CC. Her laning phase isn't honestly the best, but judging by the look on his face, Cupcake's got a smile. I reckon that's going bot lane.
All right, we'll see whether that is the case. Ornn is something that Pabu has played to great effect.
And if AV lock this one in, that's a one-track mind. They just want to dive in. They have the CC from Jarvan.
Ooh!
Ornn, but that is actually going to be a Pyke.
I still think fairly one-track mind. Pyke is an all-in support.
We saw it yesterday. We saw Rosie play it to mixed success. Honestly, looked good in the early stages of the game. Unfortunately, could not pick up the W, but definitely a strong champion on the patch.
And this would be a statement game. If they lock this in for BioPanther, means that they are willing to give him carries, but they are not Bryce. He will once again be put on the strongest tank in the patch.
Gets that. Dr. Mundo. Still have the flex available, of course. Sejuani could go in the jungle. We've seen Shernfire play it in patches past. Karma can be played in the mid lane, can be played in the bottom lane if they want to play a ranged mage into something like a Pyke. If you can get him low, you can bully him around. It's very difficult for him to play out his laning phase.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Pyke is one of those champions, and there are a few, but he feels worse than most, that if he's behind, he sucks. Has to be aggressive to use his utility, I think is the easiest way to say that.
It's like an all-in champion. When you can't all-in,
you can't do much.
You don't have many options, unfortunately, when you lock those ones in. So see what happens. Lots of flex picks across the board.
That is a good drinking technique coming out of Jake. A lot of players struggle to drink with a headset on, but Jake really nailed that one.
Straight up the side. Don't even need to move the microphone.
Yeah, absolutely. That is efficient shot calling, just like my dead Garen. Aatrox as well as Lucian, Morgana, King catching some flies on your screen.
Everyone's yawning.
Very nice glasses.
They're Gucci. Probably very expensive glasses 100%. As well.
I don't reckon I could pull them off. I admire Iron Man that can.
I feel like the fact that you don't think you can pull them off means you can't pull them off.
Yeah.
You have to do it with confidence.
Yeah.
100%. No, he does.
And Alistair gets banned away. Jace being hovered right now.
This could be very weird. We could potentially have a Sejuani Jace in the bottom lane. A lot of CC, a lot of poke, a lot of all-in potential, but maybe just going to go for the standard jungler we've seen so many times in the Skarner.
Or maybe not. We're going to go for potentially a Jace.
Jace? Hovered Lee Sin for a little bit there, but Jace will be the lock-in.
Yeah, certainly will be. So I expect this Jace to be bottom lane. I expect that to be a mid lane Karma. And once again, we see Darkseid hovering over the Kalista, something that we've seen come further and further into the meta. Prayless hovering Kayn.
Cannon?
I want to see the Kayn. Bring it back.
I want to see the Cannon. If they lock this one in, all of a sudden, Jace, Sejuani in the bottom lane, all-in potential is completely gone if that Cannon goes bot. You can build it AD, you can build it AP. with the Pyke. They have a lot of poke down there. That means Aurelia would be going mid, Ornn would be going top, and you think this would be AV locking in a jungler.
Absolutely, and now they show the Lee Sin back. They're actually just flicking through some of Shern's best champions right now. Trundle would be boring, but very good, especially against a Mundo Sejuani.
If you can hit that R button on the Sejuani with a shield,
you put her into negative if she's on Aftershock.
You get a whole bunch of resists.
So if Sejuani has passive in Aftershock and then loses them, she goes into negative armor.
That's gross.
Because of how much she gets off her passive.
Ooh.
That's a Hecarim.
Okay, me and you this morning watched a Hecarim. I forget the team against G2 in the EU LCS. 2 ganks failed, and then there was no upside from there. Shernfire, when he came back, or not even when he'd gone to Korea and come back, previously, before he was on a professional team, was a big Hecarim player.
Yeah, Vi Hecarim, that was all he played.
He was a carry jungler, tax lanes, farm the camps, don't gank early, completely steamroll the game. He's going to get
so mad when I say this. He was like old guts.
He probably would get mad at that.
He would get very mad at that, but playstyle-wise, he was the kind of person that your top laner would die, ping that they have teleport, there would be a double stack wave, and Sherm would go AoE it.
Yeah.
And then just walk back into his jungler and say, don't die next time.
And then when he wins the game,
you hit him with the honor.
It seems semi-legitimate, right?
But he was very talented. I remember when Sherm was like a 16-year-old kid, and I was watching him scrim with the Direwolves and absolutely dominating the Chiefs lineup back then. And Chiefs hadn't lost a game domestically for a year at that stage, and was still able to pull off some great victories. As we look at the lineup, it's going to be the Ornn, Trundle, Aurelia, Kennen, Pyke standard comp.
Standard comp, okay.
Versus Mundo, Hecarim, Karma, Jace, Sejuani standard comp. Obviously, both of these comps very standard.
Also, yeah, standard in.
Bryce got mad because I kept calling
inverted commas.
Yeah, I kept calling comps standard yesterday, which Bryce didn't think were standard.
This is not some standard League of Legends we're seeing right now. Across the board, once again, I'm actually surprised that Direwolves aren't playing an incredibly standard AD carry in the bottom lane. They still have a ranged AD user in the Jace, but this is a weird matchup.
At Worlds in 2015, so.
Didn't he TP to a ward that was literally right next to him?
Because he thought he had heal as well. So why do you bring up the bad parts of it?
That is true.
He also could have won that game if he just teleported into the base at the end of it and taken it down. However, this is not 2015 Worlds, and this is not EDG. This is Avant Gaming taking on the Direwolves. We are joined by Charlie, coach of Avant Gaming. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You would be having fun in this meta, I feel. You're one of the coaches that rises to the occasion of weird stuff being locked in everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to give anything a go, really. I think that it's exciting, and I also think that it's fun.
Now, I have a question, because coming into today, I was thinking that AV, obviously we're only into Game 1, are one of the teams that would like to stick it to Biopanther in the top lane. Obviously, potentially a weakness for the Direwolves. Ornn versus Mundo. Is that something you guys are prepared to do, or do you think like the meta just favors this bot lane shenanigans too much?
Yeah, look, I think it's mostly the meta. I think we could have targeted him as a player, but he's actually very solid. I think that's a trap that some teams fall into, is targeting a potentially weaker player, but he's looked quite good. And I think we have carries on other positions, Darkside on Kennen, Frey on Irelia, both very strong laners at the moment, so hopefully we can win from there.
All right, so without giving too much away for this then, Darkside's Kennen. Are we looking at traditional AP Kennen? Is this going to be AD? Is it a flex that you can go both? What do you think is stronger in the current meta?
On hit, I believe. Yeah. Right. I mean, the Bork start just makes him work really well. It makes him 1v1 really nicely. And with press the attack, you actually have a lot of dueling potential as well.
All right, cool. So once again, an AD carry that can potentially split push. Thank you so much for joining us, Charlie. Best of luck in this best of 3.
Not to mention Bork. Means on Kennen you get more CC when you pair that with a Pyke. Dueling potential in lane phase once you get that Cutlass.
Jake actually goes in, does not have the Aftershock. He had already used it topside. I think that's a little bit of overreach. Sometimes you forget about how important those keystones are, level 1.
Long cooldown, like 40 seconds.
Yeah.
This is going to be an interesting bot lane to track. Pyke Kennen versus the Jay Sejuani. Not a traditional level 2 matchup, but that's going to be the slow coming out of Cupcake. Level 2 will be hit first by the Direwolves.
Yeah, Shern going to also grab himself the first of the Rift Scuttlers. And I want to point out something there that a lot of people wouldn't know. Rift Scuttler gives you back a lot of mana. So you can actually start on different sides of the map now with very mana-hungry champions that you were not able to in the past. And I love this out of Cupcake.
This is very, very nice, creative. Sejuani does Scuttle Crabs, whether she's a jungler, whether she's a support, so well.
I also like this response, though. A lot of the time when people leave the lane early, you shove. Because you're like, if they're going mid, I want to be able to, like, you know, push this wave in.
Actually punish something, lose some CS.
However, the fact that they've got the range advantage here, they're trying to zone them away. That's a very aggressive stance from Darkside.
Because if you leave the wave even, all of a sudden, you're not killing their minions, so they have more, so they kill more of yours, and more XP is denied.
Oh, very nice chunk coming out there. And the big thing about Jace versus Kennen is we see this top lane, and Kennen wins the matchup as we see Pabu actually miss the knock-up. However, Pillar will
Might
knock.
have to flash anyway.
Yeah, it certainly is going to have to. With Schönfire now heading bottom lane. Sorry, Bryce, you haven't talked in a while, but this is going to be the ghost in. They're going onto Jake, but he misses. Actually turns around now onto Darkside and won't get the flash out of either. Beautifully held.
And Summoner choice for Darkside comes up clutch here. Suddenly, Jake didn't take any damage. He dashes away. Darkside takes almost all of his HP, but doesn't drop and maintains the flash. So he's just going to TP back to lane. Be able to pick up most of the farm, most of the experience. So gank pretty successful by Schönfire, but nice counter by AV.
And this is the big thing about Bork users. If you force them out early, they don't care. They buy double daggers and long swords and maybe some boots, and you're like, if only they had to build a BF sword, this would be worthwhile. But Darksided, he just really doesn't matter.
Shrugs it off.
Yeah.
And these two champions at the bottom lane both have the speed up dash, obviously on Pyke. Kennen has the self peel, especially once he gets to level 6. And when you have a lot of dive threats, you have the Sejuani, you have the Jace, who later on in the game wants to land the EQ and then go into melee range, hit you with a big hammer, hecker him as well. All of a sudden, as an AD carry, you don't really talk about self-peel much unless you think about something like an Ezreal.
Misses a stun there. Does Frey really wanted to get some more chip damage? You feel like he's about to go back to base as he's out of mana. He's actually continually chugging through pots. That's how I know when a mid laner wants to base. When they're rolling, corrupting pots, just hitting creeps and ignoring damage.
Just one after the other here as the bot lane from Direwolves actually bases. Of course, they haven't gone for the TP. They went for the straight-up summoner advantage. Makes a lot of sense that Schönfire paths down there earlier. They want to try and burn some of those cooldowns and have the ability to all in. Maybe at level 6, Sejuani becomes truly online.
So we see now Triple freezing up the lane. Is starting to accelerate the push, so Frey will stick around. Now at a big disadvantage because he doesn't have those potions available and he's going to have to catch a full wave.
Does he try and freeze it outside his turret, or does he try pushing the wave?
It's too far away.
Doesn't want to tank that one up for too long, so base from Triple. Has the TP to get back easily. Frey clears that one out, so waves will meet in the middle. Yeah. Triple, of course, going to TP back, so we'll be able to shove that one in.
And has minion dematerializer, so this one's going to crash.
Yep.
Old school thought was you base on cannon creep waves because they can't push it in. New school thought, base not on cannon creep waves because they're worth like 3 kills.
Yeah.
You got to take them.
Worth 3 kills. I like that.
They are worth so much gold now.
And if we take a look at the junglers right now, of course, Schönfire tried to influence the bot lane. Praylis looked for something on the top side, but already got himself about a 3-camp lead on the Hecarim. Tracking very nicely. Praylis goes for the double longsword.
And this is just Schön's pathing. I mean, we've talked about it already, but the fact that he took the first Scuttle Crab, then he called his bottom lane to take the second Scuttle Crab means that Praylis would have lost time somewhere, checking Scuttle Crabs and the like, trying to dip in for vision, and Schön just doesn't do any of those shenanigans. He just prioritizes his camp early on in the game.
That's what we were talking about in the break just before, as we had that technical difficulty. Schönfire gets the help from his teammates, and then we'll give it back later on. They help him take the Scuttle Crab. All of a sudden, he doesn't have to do it. He has the time to gank behind. Comes in, immediately leaves, resets, goes and farms a little bit more. So it's a bit of a give and take here in Direwolves, looking pretty successful so far.
However, this is a really bold call from Praylis. I wonder if he sticks around for the spawn. He would be able to out-duel Schön at this stage of the game. Schön now going in bottom lane. Very good flash prediction coming out. Schön does go underneath the turret. However, he's stunned up. And that is going to be potentially first blood. It does go through. That's Pyke grabbing it. King Cook took another current shot. Is he going to fall down? Pyke somehow died on the back end as well. That was the ignite from Cupcake. But a 1-for-1 and first blood going to the
Direwolves. And that was a 3v2 and they turn it around all of a sudden underneath the turret. Too many shots. AV's bottom lane come up with the goods.
Yeah, absolutely. And they send the cannon back to base. He grabs himself that sustain coming out of the Cutlass. And at the same time, Praylis got to counter jungle away one of Schön's camps. That's not going to make him happy.
And I think the timing from the Direwolves, they wanted to do that 3-6. Cupcake burnt the flash to try and get summoners out of Jake and Darkside, because once Jace, once Sejuani have access to their ultimates, of course Jace can just switch around, but Sejuani is the big CC that can start that one off. That was the first gank, and Schönfire wants to return. Unfortunately for them, hard commit too early. Darkside with the flash buys enough distance where King and Cupcake stunned up don't really have the ability to close the gap. Jake does not die, gets out of here, and I think, no, it does fall down to the ignite, so it is a 1-for-1 overall, but hold on.
Was hoping to get out of vision so he could start ticking his grey health back up. I actually think the flash, whilst a lot of people would be like, he wasted it there, could have potentially worked.
But Ignite gives True Sight.
Ah.
So there's no way that was going to work. Was not going to get the heal,
Does
unfortunately.
Ignite really give True Sight?
Yeah, it gives you True Sight. That's why you Ignite Neverland
That's cool.
before she zooms away.
I love
Brainless.
Eve. Eve is such a
I
cool...
hate Eve. Because I'm a laner. You're a jungler.
Thematically, Eve is cool.
Yeah. I also hate playing against her because she's invisible and I can't ward.
Oh, you can. You just have to ward camps. Come on,
Yeah.
Bryce.
No, I'm aware, but can't be lazy. I like being lazy. Just drop one in the river. The jungler comes, you're like, oh, yeah, hey, man, how's it doing? I'm going to walk away. You have to spend so much more time with an Evelyn.
Yeah, heaven forbid having to think about your role. Pyre Panther in the top lane is starting to build a little bit of a gold lead. Has got himself a cheeky 5 CS advantage. That's a creep wave at 8 minutes in. That's something.
Absolutely. But as we expect, not too much going on between the two. Has TP'd back to lane.
That's probably the creep wave.
Has held on to his, so of course Mundo TPing into the bot lane is going to be much less effective than an Ornn. The CC reliability there is just so big, especially when you have a cannon to set something up if he wants to go forwards. We haven't even mentioned Infernal Drake is the first spawn of this game, so AV currently having bot side control does bode well.
Yeah, it certainly does. You can see they're still able to push in. However, the kill threat now that Jake is about to hit level 6 and Darkseid is level 6 is so incredibly high. Kennen sets up ganks better than anyone in the game because you don't even have to hit any like skill shots or anything. He just runs at people and presses R. And eventually, the tick rate will stun you.
And even you don't have to commit that hard. You can just auto-trade with King. You hit him with a Cutlass, build up enough time. You have that extra attack speed and stun him with the W passive. Then you have the ulti to try and counter any sort of engage that's coming. Shernfire looking for a bit
They know
of a
this
gank
is coming.
here.
If the read is here and Shern still commits for the play, this could be really bad because they've already sent Praylist down here as well. Shern is pink warding it out. And they Direwolves have smelt something is up, but I like this mirroring from Praylist because he certainly is stronger right now.
I think it's potentially the dragon here. Jake just threw the harpoon.
Oh,
Threw
this
the
is
hook over
going to
the
be
wall.
really nice if they commit to it. Jake is trying to bait.
He has
Does
no
he
hook.
actually get it? Shern gets caught off.
Oh,
Doesn't
doesn't
have
get over the wall.
flash available. Does they flash forward? They don't have it either. The stun is not going to be there,
Oh,
and they miss
misses.
it. Teleport now coming in. You can see Shern still taking big damage. Good ultimate coming out. They call in the Ornhorn. Triple has got flash available. Will have to burn it. Very nicely done. However, you can see Pabu now is going to get snared up, and Biopanther top lane is going to continue to chip away at the turret.
Triple just trying to waste the Ornn's time there. Eventually, AV do get the pick. Unfortunately for their no flash on Kennen, they can't stun Shern up early. Ornn does complete the TP, and they don't get the second kill. They get the flash on the Karma, but as you mentioned, Biopanther had one wave, now has two, and got a significant chunk on this top turret, and he just takes it down.
Takes it down, and they didn't take the Fire Drake. I think that's the biggest error because Frey was forced back to base, and they were worried about Triple's priority. But I feel in that situation, you must trade.
And they didn't. All of a sudden, solo gold going over to Biopanther. Mundo is one of those tanks that if he does get a gold lead, is almost 1,000 up only 10 minutes into the game. CS lead first turret as well. If he gets ahead of the tank curve, all of a sudden, your carries just aren't dealing damage.
Yeah, especially when it's a Blade of the Roaring King cannon that does mixed damage.
Yep.
Mundo deals with mixed damage very well. See how this game continues to progress. It's about a 700 gold lead. I was about to say 700,000 gold lead. That would be huge.
Yeah.
That's nearly what Tectonic had against Order last game. As if you don't laugh, you cry. If you don't laugh, you cry, Bryce. That is my life lesson for you today.
Direwolves just pushing in the bottom lane right now. Everything's stabilizing for the most part, but Darkseid with TP has floated up the top side, and that's a rift.
So they're trying to buy some tempo back by lane swapping. They're going for a rift herald here. If Biopanther face checks, there is a chance they take him down because of the ultimate from Praylist.
There is, but this is a bit of a weird lane swap, especially with the Infernal Drake. All of a sudden, Direwolves bot lane have not base. You expect them to push in and recall, get some semblance of a base off, but now they show in the wave. Direwolves know exactly what's happening, and they're already on the turret. Shernfire, however, is topside, so maybe looking to defend the 2v2.
Yeah, potentially could do that. At the same time, you can see that Trundle is mid lane, kind of flirting with Shernfire right now. Will take a chunk out of him. No, he won't. Now caught out of position.
Praylist, no flash.
Goes for the ultimate. The stun is there. Will turn around, do some damage, but he falls down so quickly, Bryce.
And they made this play. They flipped the map. All of a sudden, Praylist goes down. Shernfire, if he wants it, they have mid priority. They can go towards the Infernal. Direwolves have the extra damage on the turret as well. Pabu's trying to hold.
Yeah, absolutely. Pabu can't hold, though, because you can see the turret is just consistently taking chip damage, and it should go right now. Does he call in the Ornhorn?
No. Doesn't want to take too much of his HP. There was about another 4 auto attacks left available. And this is just AV prioritizing Rift Herald and the turret takes over the Infernal, right?
I actually think it's because Darkside has teleport and Pabu doesn't. So I actually think they're prioritizing the Infernal Drake in just a really weird way.
That's true. Absolute potential
This
there.
is
He's now actually walking back towards bot side.
Yeah, I think this is when teams outthink themselves. Where they say, you know, they're going to prioritize Infernal. We can no longer match TP. They're going to have a tank there. We're not. How about we send our teleport top and try and do it? And they're like, well, we're just going to take your turret then. We're in no rush for the Infernal Drake. Now,
and it's interesting to think about Infernal in this meta isn't as valuable as it used to be. Yep. When you have 80 carries getting to 50 minutes in the game, all of a sudden Infernal Drake means their damage is just absolutely astronomical. But when games are ending by 20 minutes, it's a percentage multiplier. It just means less when you have less stats in the early game.
Cupcake's going to be pinned against the wall. Doesn't knock him out of the charge, however. Very nicely done. Showing his mastery of this traditional support.
Traditional. I like it. AV, as you mentioned, are going on to the Infernal Drake. Panther left alone once again at the top side. Pabu grouping with his team because he has that TP disadvantage.
Is going to TP in. Praelis doesn't have
is
ultimate
low.
available, is very low, and Shern's going to go for him, but he's abandoned the back line. Ornhorn comes in there in a big choke point, and they've already used the cannon ultimate as well. Everyone's getting stunned up, but the Direwolves are washing them in this fight. In goes the Aurelia, trying to get something going. Resets are happening for Frey right now. Double kill picked up, but that's already 4 going down on the side of the Direwolves.
And Shernfire on this Hecarim, this pick out of nowhere MVP. Huge fear on the back of soloing out the enemy jungler. That was a proactive play out of AV. You talked about the teleport disadvantage. All 5 members commit onto the Infernal. They get wiped and they're going to lose it as well.
Absolutely. You can see right now, 1 second actually left on Cannon, and Pyke is still here. Kind of is smelling something's going on because there's a ward in the pit, so that's why they know. However, he can't get here in time. They're going to lose everything. They lose it.
Oh, he gets it! Jake's just playing no smite. Shernfire in the base. Triple used Mantra Q early. He could have held that one. The Karma can burst harder than the Pyke, but here we go. Look at Shernfire. Solo's out Praelis. He just dies immediately. A lot of CC is burned from AV here. Ornhorn, Cannon ulti, but that 3-man fear after taking out the jungler. This fight is so easy for the Direwolves. They just clean up, walk forward. Nice stun and trade by the Aurelia. Frey picking up a double, but unfortunately for AV, Direwolves, they pick up the fight.
And absolutely, and once again, Triple is just going the gold efficient build. He's just going for double support items. So even though Frey now looking fine, 2-1-1, he's actually so far behind in relevancy as far as these team fights go. We saw it last week. Teams trying to play Aurelia in a team fight against Direwolves, it just does not work.
Shernfire is even going for the Triforce, not going for anything tanky. The traditional build hasn't finished his jungle item, doesn't care. Wants that super expensive 1-item spike. Wants to be able to pick it up, and when you have a Karma, you don't really think about Karma buffing up the jungler, and normally it's the AD carry, but Jace, less auto-attack based than a traditional AD carry. The shield's going to be going into Shernfire. You want him living for longer, soaking up damage with that W, getting the extra healing, more attacks means he's going to survive in the backline for longer.
Yeah, completely agree. They've dropped the Rift Herald top lane. You can see now multiple members of Avant going to come over and defend this one. Hook does land, however, Jake is by himself here. Will get a little bit of a stun, but now Frey is in trouble, and they've just completely cut off any transition towards the top side of the map.
And we saw this happen to the Bombers when Rosie was playing Pyke. Once the enemy team has control of the map, it's so hard for you to be able to wander around, find picks in the side lane, especially when it's a tank versus tank top lane. You as a Pyke and an Ornn aren't really going to kill a Mundo, so the bottom lane gank potential isn't there. All of a sudden, you just have less opportunities, so Jake forced to just throw out hooks in 1v3.
And actually, he's just going to get engaged on it. He's going to fall down, gets blown up. He is not tanky at all. And Shern just continue to make plays.
That's the pick they needed. All of a sudden threatening the mid lane. Rift Herald did not even get a charge in the top side, I believe. Triple able to force that one out. So expiry Herald that AV invested in early, and they're going to lose a turret.
And you see Biopanther walks through the choke, cuts off any kind of counter engage that's going to happen. Rotation already comes out of Cannon. Waves are pushing against them. They're losing farm right now, AV, by collapsing here, and it's going to be a 5,000 gold lead.
That's pretty big, approaching the 20-minute mark. Only 17.5 right now. Gold leads almost across the board. Hecarim has about a 1.5. That's pretty big in the bot lane as well. King 1,000 up. Spire Panther just going to clear out the rest of the wave. Direwolves throwing most of the members towards the top side of the map. Shernfire on the Hecarim. Does more damage than standard jungler at this point in the game, so he's going to get all the red buffs, not going to give them over the King.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've already mentioned, King's not relying on the auto attack, going to be relying on the accelerated shock blast and probably into hammer stance at the end of the fight. So it doesn't really need the red buff all that much.
Because they just have a huge dive pump. Mundo's just going to run into the back line. Hecarim wants to go in, get that perfect fight that we've already seen. Fear onto multiple members. Sejuani's going to be in the thick of it as well. There's so much CC for King to be able to have that set up to land the guaranteed EQ. All of a sudden he can follow it up. And even if he trades his life, if he just one-shots one or even two people with a follow-up from Direwolves, they'll wipe the floor.
Absolutely agree, and we can see that the Gold League continuing to accelerate. They're sticking to this 1-3-1, just accumulating farm on their carries where they need to. And Avant, at the moment, have just slowed the tempo, but they're just trading down at every situation.
CS lead in favor of King has been able to build that one up, and you mentioned it. The Banner of Command now completed for BioPanther, so potentially looking to be able to make a play, can actually have pressure in the side lane when he's not present.
I was just about to say, Shern looking to dip in, get some vision of the enemy jungler, but that is Cupcake playing Sejuani. They give the blue buff over to King, so this is the full switch up.
So that's a lethality Jace.
Yep.
Karma doesn't need it. She's got a double mana item, has the Chalice in that Athene, so absolutely no need for him.
And they've
Jace
spot
just
out
wants to spam
Frey
EQ.
on the top side of the map. They're also going to get rid of all the vision that AV have shallow in their jungle, so Baron now becomes a very real possibility.
And this has been almost a 3-minute setup around the Baron. They sent their bot lane mid, the Sejuani Jace combination, weird bot lane, but they're still mid. Triple, consistently pushing in the top side, and all of the members keep floating in, sweeping out the vision, and all of a sudden, AV literally do not have a ward on the top side of the map. Every single one has been cleared out. Baron is spawning in 20 seconds. They have Sejuani to engage, they have Hecarim to flank, they have Mundo that can run at you. There's so much pick potential from this Direwolves lineup, and AV don't have a single ward. This is over sweeping now, because Direwolves expect there to be vision, but there's just nothing.
And with that, the kind of stranglehold that the Direwolves can get on games continues. You can see Jake checking brushes with skill shots, trying to get some foothold back in his jungle. Checks another brush. And this is the 3 shallowest pink wards I've seen in so long. They're just trying to approach the Baron buff.
Do they find that pink ward? Frey's going to walk over it. He does. That's huge in terms of flank potential. You do not want a Mundo running behind you in the middle of a team fight, but Shernfire, no camps to farm, picking up the river. Direwolves still maintaining this stranglehold around the Baron. They're not the tankiest lineup. Oh, they are.
They're not the tankiest lineup.
They're pretty.
They have a super tank and a Karma.
I take it back, Jake. I take it back.
All right.
They're pretty damn tanky. They have Sejuani, they have Mundo.
I want to know what a tank comp looks like now. I don't know.
I mean, Ornn 80 carry, that's a tank comp.
Yeah, it certainly is.
Yep. And Dragon is also spawning. That's going to be a second Infernal. Pings go down, so potentially for the time being, Direwolves going to give up some of their Baron control. AV, Pings go out on the top side, so they know exactly what's happening. They don't want to contest a team fight. They want to contest the vision around the Baron.
And I think this is smart. You got lucky with the first steal. Don't push it with a team fight when you're 5,000 gold down in only 20 minutes. Use this time to get some tempo, get your blue buff.
Ooh,
maybe even grab yourself a Herald, a Scuttler.
That's going to be guaranteed vision the Direwolves cannot clear for the next minute or so. So AV roll the RNG in some respect there. Obviously not happy that the Infernal goes over to Direwolves, but
I mean
mean
when you steal the first one with a pike harpoon,
yes, true.
You can't be upset about whatever the second dragon is. You just have to eat that.
And that just speaks to discipline, right? Because Triple was there. Mantra Q on a mid lane Karma who gets solo lane experience, does a lot of damage. He could have held it, but they just didn't think the steal potential was there. They're like, look, no smite. We don't have ours, but Shernfire decides he wants to tank up the Baron.
Balmy Cinder aggro's
Unfortunately.
Baron. Real annoying.
Triple gets relegated to clearing out the vision.
Actually surprised Baron reset in that time. Baron stays angry for a long time
Oh,
now.
here we
Fight
go.
forward onto the 80 carry 10, and that will be him deleted from Summoner's Rift. Now they continue the fight onto Praelis. He is very tanky. Shern will have to teleport away. That is going to be Jake going invisible for a little bit,
And
but
that
they
was
just back off.
Out of nowhere, Flash engage at a Cupcake. They get the pick. Darkseid had Flash available, didn't even get the chance to use his ultimate. He's sitting on 2 items, and Kennen, we talked about the self-heal is there, but if you just chain CC, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now has his Runarn's Hurricane, so will be very good at wave clearing. And potentially that is why they went for that play, because they know that if they just stay in this 1-3-1, they are starting to trade farm. In the past, they were getting into the jungle a lot. They were taking away camps. But for about the last 2-3 minutes, that hasn't been the case. They're just bouncing waves.
Yep.
They got themselves an Infernal, but not much else. So Cupcake pulls the trigger, forces a play.
And they're not, as you say, increasing their gold lead here. It has just been pretty static at about 6k. That's still significant. As you mentioned, AV holding on just fine. I was talking about it yesterday. I very much like that Prylus has gone for the blue trinket. Want to get rid of the sweeper. They need ways to check the Baron. The best they've got is a Pike Q that doesn't really even provide any vision. If it hits someone, you know someone's in the bush, but by that stage, it might be too late.
One correct answer. Let's play again. What is the best M&M? Crispy, normal, or peanut?
Crispy.
Interesting.
Interesting. What is your correct answer?
Not peanut. I just ate a peanut M&M.
I agree with not peanut.
Peanut and chocolate doesn't do it for me.
Okay.
What's your favorite chocolate? Just because you're a big chocolate fan.
Milk chocolate. Just normal.
Is it?
Just Cadbury chocolate eggs.
I like dark rum and raisin chocolate. Yum.
It's too fancy. This one basic chocolate. Cupcake.
I just want chocolate that tastes like real chocolate.
Oh, he actually, that was a very nice sneak. Gets himself a little wolf camp after being hooked in by AV.
Yeah, if you don't mind. Just,
yeah.
Oh, and that is starting to do big damage. You can see that's a BF sword now for King. He's going towards a GA just for some added safety. And they have a pseudo poke comp that also can just dive the backline.
And also can tank Baron, because they're incredibly tanky, right, Jake?
As you so aptly pointed out earlier. Yes, this is a very tanky comp.
Cupcake also going for the Frozen Heart. You don't often see supports pick that one up, but it's super nice. 10% CDR from your Sidestone, 20 from that item, and not many support items give you 20.
But he has no health. So I'm going to disagree. I'm going to do mathematical spawn here.
Okay.
That is a real bad item.
Okay.
Because the way that tank stats work, and like not a lot of people know this, is that at a certain point, HP is more valuable than armor, even against AD users. Because if you reduce a certain amount of damage, there is a diminishing returns graph. So I actually think he should have gone for HP in this situation.
And you don't think the upgraded Equinox plus base health, level 11, is the breakpoint?
I don't reckon it is, because the thing is that Sejuani's breakpoint was past Warmogs. That's why you used to rush Warmogs on it, because her passive is so huge. So we see top lane, a little bit of a gank coming in, but now the counter gank is here. Frey actually goes forward, misses the ult, therefore will not get another reset, and that would have killed Triple 100%. That means now Baron is well and truly on the cards.
They do not even burn an ultimate, so Engage coming out of Cupcake. We're talking about the tank stats.
Yeah, tanky comp going to be able to do Baron very well.
And King 1v2 in the mid lane just holding people off. Now he walks over to the Baron.
They're not contesting it. They know that they're too far behind. They're a member down. They just can't do it. As the scoreboard just
doesn't want to go away.
Breaking it down.
Yeah, it's breakdancing scoreboard.
And King also protected his mid lane tier 1. So very nicely done by King.
The best of both worlds. There's no, like AV just have no vision. Direwolves have spent so much time around the Baron. AV don't know if there's a Sejuani sitting behind him in the lane bush, so King can stand there and float to the top side of the map, defend the wave, because AV don't want to commit. They can't get forced into a fight. Now this is a 7,000 gold lead, a Baron buff, and they're strong enough to dive. We talked about the tank stats of the Frozen Heart. If Sejuani is your solo engage,
he just teleported out.
We get 30% CDR.
Bummer. Pabu going to have to go on a long journey to the middle of nowhere to survive this one. And it's not going to happen. That was a very strange interaction. Don't know what exactly happened there, but Churn got another kill.
He's a top laner, and now has a grey screen, so maybe a bit of shot calling on the cards for AV's top laner.
A couple of pings going off.
I can't see them, so he's not calling anything. But Direwolves got their sights set on the mid lane in a turret. King alone sieging this one up,
and something has to change right now, because they are just slowly losing across the board again. Every single time Direwolves look for a pick, they get something, and Avant just have not pulled the trigger on any of their plays.
And for the next 20 seconds, they're probably not going to be able to. Pabu has the biggest form of engage for the lineup. Kennen, huge flank engage tool, but not really when you're an 80 carry. This isn't an AP Kennen. You don't do a lot of damage on that burst. It's more for the self-heal, so...
Not to mention you just die instantly, and they're going to push into the base. Hypercharge from Jace. Very good. They pull Triple back. However, the engage is already there, and goodbye multiple members. That is going to be Kennen and Trundle gone. Once again, ultimate not used, and this should just be Direwolves grouping up now. They've still got a huge creep wave here. Ornhorn comes, but it will knock only up 2 members. Into the back line goes Frey again. He is exhausted. Jake looking for some resets. They do get the creep wave, but is it enough? Jake now trying to get out of dodge. Will flash away, and that might just be enough to preserve this game.
Still 20 seconds on Darkside, 15 on Praylist. They have another wave if they want to push it in. It might be close, but they're going for the end.
Yeah, they certainly are. They get the CC once again. Jake goes over the back line. He's trying to get the creep wave, but it isn't enough. Still 8 seconds left on Darkside, and the Direwolves have done it. They've been able to come in 28 minutes into this game. They're going to start hitting the Nexus. They will take it down, and they will pick up game number 1.
In very dominant fashion. It's a weird composition. It's the one we've seen so successful, or most successful rather, out of all the OPL teams. Maybe rivaling the Chiefs' 20-minute victory over Legacy earlier on last week, but Sejuani bottom lane, Jace bottom lane. It was a slow crawl over the hill, but Direwolves made it easily.
And I think Avant fell into the trap of when you're behind, you stop looking for plays. They were looking for plays in the Aurelia lane. They needed to take CC up there. They needed to be able to make it work. Pyke is a playmaking support. And for a lot of that game, Jake was just on vision control duty. And I think that really you have to pull the trigger on a swap somewhere. You need to be able to play either aggressive on the Ornn lane or the Aurelia lane, and they just kind of left it 50-50.
And the thing is, they did opt in for the swap, right? But it was that swap back to the Infernal Drake. Yeah. They had the TP, like that was much earlier on into the game, but that team fight was AV, like this is our play. We have Kennen level 6, he has Bork, he has that one item spike. We heard Charlie Wraith Pinch talking about like the on-hit Kennen does a lot of damage, has a lot of CC, but teamfight was just too split from AV. Jungler's up top side of the river. He goes down before the fight even really starts. And that just set the tone for the entire game for the rest.
Yeah, it certainly didn't. I think that the impressive thing was that they had a comp that was kind of short range, you know, very tanky, but they needed fight to kind of bully people around and position on the map. But the Direwolves just held. They just continued with their 1-3-1, got to item breakpoints, and then were able to control areas of the map through very good vision. And once again, their fundamentals are just so good in this game.
And I liken it a lot to discipline, right? I was talking about discipline and lack thereof when they lost the Infernal Drake. Sure, it sucks, but every time they were in a 1-3-1 scenario, no one was getting picked off. Karma in the top lane was pushing out the wave, and then he would back away when multiple members went up there. Mid lane didn't overcommit into the mid lane, didn't get caught out. All of a sudden, it just looks incredibly easy, and it's just a slow build, but very successful.
Absolutely. They put it on a slow burn, but it only took 28 minutes. Pressure cookers. They revolutionized the slow cooking industry. Let's throw it over to Nick Boy and Dos, who are alongside after some highlights. Does go underneath the turret, however, he's stunned up, and that is going to be potentially first blood. It does go through. That's Pyke grabbing it. King Cook took another current shot. Is he going to fall down? Pyke somehow died on the back end as well. Praylist doesn't have ultimate available, is very low, and Shern's going to go for him, but he's abandoned the back line. Ornn comes in there in a big choke point, and they've already used the Kennen ultimate as well. Everyone's getting stunned up, but the Direwolves are washing them in this fight. In goes the Aurelia, trying to get something going. Resets are happening for Frey right now. Double kill picked up. Triple back. However, the engage is already there, and goodbye multiple members. That is going to be Kennen and Trundle gone. Once again, ultimate not used, and this should just be Direwolves grouping up now. They've still got a huge creep wave here. Ornn comes, but it will knock only up 2 members. Into the back line goes Frey again. He is exhausted. Jake looking for some resets. They do get the creep wave, but is it enough? Jake goes over the back line. He's trying to get the creep wave, but it isn't enough. Still 8 seconds left on Darkside, and the Direwolves have done it. They've been able to come in 28 minutes into this game. They're going to start hitting the Nexus. They will take it down, and they will pick up game number 1. A huge ultimate out of triple, so much damage across, and it looks like the Direwolves are absolutely rinsing the king.